Okay, can everyone see us? Well, I guess we can't hear. Right, so we are Davy and Christine McGuire, and we are a little bit rubbish at doing an elevator pitch about ourselves. So we thought we'd begin this presentation with a 5-minute video, which summarizes the project we want to present, but also shows some of our other work and introduces us a little bit. So we will now disappear and put our slides on. Right. So The Invited is an augmented reality pop-up book which serves as a conduit for Dracula's curse to re-enter current society. And the film we'll show you now was originally the video pitch for this project. Here we go.
Hi, we're Davy and Christine McGuire, multimedia artists.
And we are internationally known for creating idiosyncratic, innovative works in digital projection and storytelling.
The Guardian described our work as magical and exquisitely crafted and full of visual wonders. And the Times said that our work makes the jaw drop and the head whirl, which is exactly what we want our audiences to experience. This year, we won Innovation of the Year at the Museum and Heritage Awards for our large immersive Christmas installation at Harewood House. We have also won the Samuel Beckett Theatre Trust Award and the Australian Helpman Award for Best Visual Theatre Production, amongst others. We work across the genres of theatre, installation art, fine art and film, and over the last 10 years we have toured and exhibited our work to over 100 venues in 23 different countries across the world. Please take a look at our walkthrough video. The Invited reimagines the Gothic story of Dracula in a seance, in which an augmented reality pop-up book serves as a conduit for Dracula's curse to re-enter current society.
Save me! Save me! The devil is here! That's it! The sea will save me from him! It's all that's left!
Creature from hell, eyes of blood.
Set in a dark, secret location, a physical book and a mobile device spirit detector will summon a small audience through a beautifully unsettling experience in which each page turn reveals a new, exquisite papercraft world and a new set of atmospheric animations to those who were invited to Dracula's reincarnation.
You came willingly to my invitation and entered my world. Welcome.
We are one. I am yours. That is the reason for being. The reason for life.
We are looking to complete a 20-minute theatrical experience that we will market directly to our existing network of over 100 international festivals and venues. The show will be versatile and easy to set up in a multitude of atmospheric locations. We'll also refine our AR engine in order to explore embedding the book into more elaborate interactive experiences, such as a fine art escape room-esque thriller in a shipping container, and a spine-chilling in-home horror book seance for mobile devices. We are looking for funders, partners, venues, and publishers to help us unleash Dracula onto the world.
Right, I hope that video played all right. Anyway, okay. So we were given £20,000 by Creative XR to create a prototype, develop a business plan, and then pitch the prototype in an industry and market event at the end of the program. Since this market event, we've had a fair bit of interest, so we're looking forward to further developing the show. So the project comes as an extension of our creative practice and a fascination with combining digital technology with real-world objects in order to find new ways of telling stories. In our previous projects, we used projection mapping to place animations in real-world environments. Here's a little clip of the Ice Book, which was a previous pop-up book project that used projections to create a miniature theatrical experience. Video played well, but we have no idea. So a bit more background to the invited. About a year and a half ago, we became fascinated by using games engines as a storytelling device, mixing them with projection mapping techniques to create installations that people can literally play and story characters that audiences can control. With the help of an R&D grant from XR Stories, we made 2 prototype video games that mixed the digital dimension with the physical realm. This one is called Lucy, and it's a platformer game about a vampire bride played out on a real-world physical diorama. Sorry that I finished abruptly. Anyway, this one is called Shelf Life, and it's a platformer video game that's projected onto a real domestic set of shelves. The concept is to have a character like Super Mario running through your living room. It's recently been a bit trumped by Mario Kart Live, but the idea is still pretty cool. Anyway, here's a very short clip of that. So although we love working with projections, they need quite specific circumstances, lighting in environments and accurate setups for them to work properly. Whereas augmented reality is really a much more versatile and omnipresent technology. And we're excited to see how far we can push it, basically. So we want to continue to surprise audiences by finding new, engaging ways to tell stories. And The Invited is an extension of this. In this way, we want The Invited to be a compelling narrative experience played out on a beautiful, exquisite work of art in a format that can be set up and experienced almost anywhere.
And here we are again. So we'll just show you, behind us is Lucy, the
video game diorama piece.
You can hang it on the wall and play it with a game console. And this is the prototype, The Invited. So it is an actual physical pop-up book. And the first 2 pages, they look like this, right? Number 1.
Oh, tilt it up, there you go. Little boat.
And number 2. So there will be much more pages in the final project, but this is the prototype. So we work with 2 pages. That's it.
Wow. Your work is simply beautiful, enchanting. And Christine, can I just say, you have the most wonderful voiceover as well. So I was just like, it was so mystical and enchanting. It was wonderful. Thank you both so much.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump straight to a wonderful question from Katie, who incidentally would like to put on a mocap suit and project herself into one of your sets. And if that's possible, I would also like to join, Katie. But she asked the question, have you considered taking this into an education environment? It just seems to be something that would fit quite well for younger children, but going on to secondary school as well. Is that part of the plan for you?
In a what environment? Sorry.
Education.
Education environment. Okay, yeah. We've not necessarily thought about it in that context, because I think like with previous sort of pop-up book things that we've done and what happens is that it actually adults like them more than children do. It's a really interesting thing that sort of children are not jaded is the wrong word, but they're exposed to quite a lot of kind of technological magic at a young age. And whereas adults have this kind of reminiscence of past things, so they have this understanding of what a pop-up book is in relation to their childhood, if you see what I mean. So we haven't necessarily considered that. It's nothing that we wouldn't do.
But the plan for this would be to actually make it quite a beautifully unsettling experience. So not necessarily for children, but really for adults to enjoy. And what we often find is that when adults say, "Oh, my children would love it," we think in our head, it's the child in you that likes it. Actually, when children come to see the ice book, which we showed earlier, some of them love it, but some of them get fidgety. You know, they need quick cuts, color, action, and the ice book is much more melancholy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So another question from Susan is, where can we see your work offline next?
Offline. Oh, that's so.
Well, there's a lot of things in the pipeline, so I'm not sure if we can really make any promises, but we are hoping to. So one of the big projects. Are we allowed to talk about silence?
Yeah, I think we can talk a little bit, maybe.
A little bit. So
we'll do it.
We'll do it. So we'll be projecting real mermaids into the waters of Hull Quay. So there will be real mermaids swimming in the waters.
Mermaids, we should say, not real mermaids. Well, real, semi-real mermaids, virtual mermaids.
So that's the next big installation in autumn, if everything goes to plan. And we are talking to a variety of festivals about projecting video games onto large buildings, so that like the Super Mario game, it lends itself really well to the facade of a big building where, you know, the Super Mario runs across windowsills and climbs up pipes and stuff. So that's in discussion. So there's no confirmation there yet because of COVID. And
the Invited, hopefully, will be like coming out next, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be taking that to a lot of festivals next year, sort of around June time. Yeah.
So, I mean, your work overall, from your more traditional creative practice to immersive technology, really seems to be based on taking you to worlds that could otherwise not be experienced. So taking you to that other place. And immersive technology obviously works quite well in that space. But I wonder, with all those wonderful worlds that you could have picked, and the question, I suppose, you will be asked quite a lot is, why Dracula? Why did you decide to go for Dracula for this experience?
So with a lot of our productions, we don't use much language, which is very nice because it means that we can tour internationally, and that's been rather lovely. But also, I think we like very archetypal stories, and they can be told with music and visuals and body language. And with Dracula, we thought it was a good idea to use it because it's a story that's in the public imagination. And if we take it into a story format that people aren't totally used to yet, They have a reference point already, so we don't need to spoon feed them a new story. We can experiment a little bit more and maybe be a little bit more creative with it, rather than making sure that everyone understands everything. And also, I think it's just, yeah, you know, you talk about immersion. I think it's just nice to not freak people out a bit.
Yeah. I think that's interesting as well. I think what the idea is to try and make an AR project that has that takes you on a journey and takes you on an emotional journey, and we want to see if it's possible to freak people out a bit as well. So,
we always say to beautifully unsettle people, not to freak them out, but you know.
Okay.
I like that. That's the positive and negative in the same sentence, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's another attraction for the story and for using the paper craft that we're using, is combining the dark with the beautiful. I think we're quite, in all of our work, we're quite attracted to that.
I mean, you obviously, a lot of what you're doing comes from your creative practice, and you've had a huge following from that. But just as a final question, I wonder whether you're anticipating new audiences because you're now using immersive experience or immersive technology.
Do we anticipate new audiences, did you say? Yeah, it's something that we'd like to explore, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of our, let's say the ice book, again, is a good reference point. It can only be seen by 12 people at a time because it's such an intimate experience. And it would just be nice to actually really go to town. That's why we're thinking about making the invited potentially an in-home experience much, much later down the line. But yeah, it would be nice to reach more people, definitely.
Davy and Christine, thank you so much for your time. Your work is simply beautiful and enchanting. We're all very much looking forward to seeing The Invited when it's released. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So finally, we have Lawrence Chiles, Head of Digital Services at the National Gallery. If you could join us, please, Lawrence. The stage is yours. Thank you, Lawrence.
I just double check you can hear me. I just want to talk. Nerys, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Or we'd be bad start if you can't hear me. What an amazing set of projects so far. I feel like it's late here in the UK. We should all down tools and run to the different experiences we've just seen and have a big rave, because there was some amazing stuff going on there from Bruno. I'm here to kind of take it down a notch, to talk about a collaboration at the National Gallery that we did, and kind of how it's influenced our thinking around digital and immersive experiences at the gallery, and essentially working in partnership. So I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me a sec. Fingers crossed everybody can see that. So yeah, this is a project called Virtual Veronese at the National Gallery, which was a collaboration in partnership with Story Futures, who everyone I sure know in the UK, Royal Holloway University, and Focal Point VR. And given all the amazing things we've seen so far this afternoon, maybe we should just stop and look at a 16th century painting, because this is the material that we have to work with at the National Gallery. This is Paolo Veronese's Consecration of St. Nicholas in 1562. It's in Gallery 9, Room 9 rather, of the National Gallery. And this is the sort of VR project that we built this experience around. But to tell sort of a bit of the story about why we came in to work with this particular painting, it was actually a research fellowship that was already in play at the gallery with one of our research curators called Dr. Rebecca Gill. And she was looking at where this painting was actually created for, its story, its kind of reason for being, and how it came to the National Gallery. And like a lot of the paintings that we have in the National Gallery, they are made for other places, other spaces, and have some strong particular purposes that they were painted for, to give across particular meaning. And so she was doing a lot of work around this project and where it's located, and a lot of challenges about how to recreate kind of what the original setting of the painting would have been shown in, and how the public might explore that. The work with Story Futures took that curatorial research fellowship and worked in a match-funded partnership, which is something the gallery hadn't done. The digital team at the National Gallery was recently invented at the time, and one of the strong focuses we had was to look at immersive experiences and how we could sort of tell those stories. And so it made no sense to, made a lot of sense rather, not no sense, to work in partnership. That was a thing we have to do to try and bring these things to life. And Story Futures process was just about to begin. So we were the first challenge setter for that process and to bring the Story Lab to the National Gallery. So it was a really healthy mix of kind of new route for the gallery to take to start thinking about digital experiences on the gallery and kind of the challenges that set and how to sort of bring these things to life. So there's a lot of R&D questions. How is AR or VR going to work? What kind of technology can we do? What are the barriers for people participating on the gallery, which is free to access? It's not a temporary exhibition. We were taking a painting that was actually on our normal gallery floors as part of the main collection. And to answer some of those questions also around, well, what is immersion on the gallery floor? And there was the broader aims of the project, the broader aims of the Story Futures process, which is really to work in partnership with VR companies and to stimulate growth in the sector. And so to really take that prototyping aspect and to bring it to life, but also to do a big case study so the gallery knew where it could go in the future with these things, but also how partnerships would work for those young companies that are looking to broaden their knowledge. So just to sort of run through, I hope you can all see this, where it is. The top picture there is that it's in one of our galleries in room 9, as I say. And to work with the Story Lab, which is essentially a pitch-based process, we supplied a lot of information at the outset. So the painting was designed for a chapel called San Benedetto al Po near Mantua in northern Italy. And as I say, Rebecca had done a lot of work around the history of the painting there, the kind of how it worked with some choral manuscripts in terms of how they would have been designed for the space, and the real sort of art historical piece of the painting in its setting. And we were lucky enough to be able to then find the funding to take scan labs out there and work with them to scan the chapel, to get all that data, and then provide it to the companies who are participating in the Story Lab. So that whole rich experience of taking assets, taking some deep curatorial knowledge, bringing that to an innovation process that was completely new to the gallery was a really, really exciting period and was a very successful one in terms of bringing the gallery along and thinking about how to work in a more innovative way. We were able to bring a lot of our directors on board into a new process, and for them to see how a rapid ideation could work over a Story Lab phase of a couple of days even, with the assets that have been supplied to the companies for a week, were pretty gobsmacked that we could go from just ideas on paper to actually seeing physical prototypes that were pitched at that level at the end of the Story Lab. And the winning agency Focal Point took what was going to be at the beginning, at the outset, an augmented reality piece. The challenge at the very beginning was how can you get people in front of the painting to get all this lovely information across, but also direct people back to the painting, always in the National Gallery thinking about the sort of integrity of the work. And so augmented reality seemed like the best way to go. But what was fantastic about the project and working in this way is whilst we started with the mirror prism as a kind of option to this to see if that was going to work, during the 4-month process we were able to work not only with the Magic Leap headset but also with Oculus Quest, and so it became a really rich prototyping experience to be able to port the development of the project onto the different headsets, and then to run a live prototyping event. So this was actually staged in the gallery for 2 weeks. The sort of mix of things we were trying, ranging from the actual story itself and the curatorial objectives through to the operational side, is how can we actually do this on a gallery floor? Will people queue? What happens if you stick a headset on the gallery floor? There was initially quite a lot of nervousness around this, but the deep, rich resources that we got from Royal Holloway and our own internal data and insight team, working with the people that the participation of general public who were coming to see it, was just fantastic in terms of the amount of data we would be able to get. So some key findings. The story that we presented to the visitor had 2 routes. It had a curated route working with Dr. Rebecca Gill, and it also had the sort of more story augmented route, which was taking the abbot story, as we called it, which was the story of the abbot and the monk, and telling a more rich sort of stylized narrative story from the characters that were in the painting. And so just even being able to test those two types of stories and what type of audience was keen to experience them, were they new to using a headset, was just fantastic. So, I mean, it got very good ratings in the 2 weeks that it was there. Interestingly, 61% of visitors opted for the monk story. There was a demographic kind of skew there. Those that were actually more art knowledgeable tended to choose the curator-led experience. Those that were sort of new to the gallery and new to our particular type of art at the gallery tended to go for the other experience and the monk experience. Equally, at the time, we were testing with Quest and Magic Leap, and that was a really interesting observation in terms of AR versus VR, and equally that they both tested very equally in terms of the experience and what people got from it. There were lots of discussions around the sort of the reason that the heart of the project, really around the reason of looking at the actual painting through an AR headset was key. However, once people saw the VR experience, even though that meant you're putting on an enclosed headset in the gallery, it tended to have the wow factor that you get from that experience. And so even though the Magic Leap did test very well at the time, and AR probably could have been a good way to go, it was felt that we've actually taken it forward, actually working with the Quest now in the next phase, we'll talk about in a minute. But the last thing to say there in terms of strong willingness to pay, I think with these types of experience on the gallery, we are free to entry, but everybody who tried it definitely felt that they would be willing to pay and part with their hard-earned cash to experience it. In general, 74% of participants stated that the experience was positive, and I think that was a really good turning point for us at the gallery, to have that really positive experience about taking technology onto the gallery floor. It should be said that the nature of the collection, the permanent collection, and the gallery itself and the rooms that house them are really integral into kind of the experience. And so there was general nervousness about, can you take technology onto the gallery? What does it mean to put some people in front of a painting with a headset on? And there was not really very much negativity at all around that. It was a great test operationally as well as from a storytelling perspective. And so it's really allowed us to start thinking harder about how we bring technology onto the gallery, what are the type of immersive experiences that we can use. So in terms of where next, just to kind of give you a snapshot here of where we are taking it, COVID, the ever-present COVID that has been the bane of everybody's life, has stalled the project in its next iteration. You can see on the left there, the original experience was designed for a fixed position. We didn't want people to be moving about the space whilst they stood in a room that had general public walking around as well. We were very hot on the health and safety concerns around that. So designing the experience initially for a fixed position was where we wanted to go. And we were working with a relatively tight budget. And so the sort of scanning and the data capture around the characters was done for that purpose, but then created a certain amount of problems. We've actually taken it a step further. We've invested further in the project. We've worked with Focal Point now and with Volograms to reshoot the stories, to tell the story in a slightly different way, taking all the learning that we had. And now the experience is much richer in terms of being able to walk around the space and to really extend the wow factor. And so we're in position of being able to design this in a way that people will have a bit more freedom and movement. And the gallery we are looking at the process of making this into a display at the gallery sometime in the future. It was due to be this year. And as I say, the ever-present COVID in our lives has put some pain and slowness to that particular output, as well as just in terms of what it means to do a distributed technology experience, with headsets and the concerns around health and safety. So fingers crossed, later on in the year, that will have disappeared and we'll be able to run the show and take all that rich learning. In terms of how it's affected us in the gallery, this was, as I said at the very beginning, we were a challenge setter for Story Futures at the very start of the Story Futures journey. It was the start of our journey as well in terms of thinking about immersive experience in the gallery. We've done several things that really took a lot of learning of this experience in terms of how to iterate, what innovation means, what that creative R&D process means. That fed into a large show at the National Gallery called, I'm going to stop sharing my screen actually now. Let's just move away from that. Called Leonardo Experience, which was a much bigger scale experience, but all the learning we had from doing virtual Veronese really helped us with that. And then most recently, we've just got an exhibition on called Sensing the Unseen, which was only open for 7 days. It will open again when we reopen in May. And again, it's a different type of immersive experience, but all the learning we had from working with audiences has really dramatically changed how the gallery wants to approach doing these type of experiences. So I think I will end it there.
Hi. Sorry, there's always this like sort of awkward silence.
I know.
I am coming
like,
to you, it's just very slowly. So,
as you said, 5 seconds is a long time in that kind of environment.
Loris, thank you so much for a very informative and very insightful presentation. I'm going to jump straight to the questions from the chat. So Katie's asking, can people engage with this remotely? And if so, that she imagines that would vastly increase your audience potential, given that you no longer have a physical venue capacity.
Yeah, it's all part of the discussion. I mean, even the production phase that we've gone through or wanted to go through, once we wanted to take the next step of investment in it, has all been delayed. So we've only literally, I think we're due to receive the final version at the end of this month. And then that gives us lots of opportunities. I mean, we was designed specifically to be in gallery. We've actually managed to do the version now that means that we can distribute it elsewhere. So that will be the next step of thinking how we can actually distribute it more widely.
Wonderful. We look forward to that. So the next question, has COVID in any way helped with acceptance and understanding of the tech? And I imagine we could ask that in terms of your audience, but also perhaps the gallery.
I've said a standard line about this in a couple of presentations in the last few weeks because it's been a common question. I think it's in terms of museums and galleries, and I suppose the digital part of museums and galleries. All I said there in terms of like bringing it back to the real painting it always will be the focus, and that's absolutely what we're trying to do. I think what's been very interesting over the last 12 months is that it has kind of freed us up a little bit from the connection between the real and the digital. And I think it will always be our whole remit, obviously, is the real painting and the knowledge that we have. But the last 12 months, we've reached a massive audience. Our digital team has, well, all the gallery team really, and across many museums in the UK and everywhere, have reacted to kind of bring people to culture in a different way and consuming culture in a different way. And I think that's incredibly powerful now, is that it's not this distinction between the physical visit. And I think we'll end up with a much more blended approach to everything that we do moving forward. So I think it's actually opening up some doors, which is really exciting.
Wonderful. So Susan is asking, and you've already sort of covered this by saying that it's now being extended to Leonardo, but are there plans to extend the project to other works of art at the National Gallery? I suppose, is this going to become a staple of the National Gallery experience?
The 3 projects we've done have all focused on one painting. So it's always this idea of kind of, we've done one painting and kind of put a wrapper around that one painting, whether that's a VR headset for Veronese, or 5 rooms for Leonardo, or the recent experience with Jan Gossart's Adoration. And I think that's always the difficult thing for museums and galleries, is how do you then take this and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And I think we're really trying to understand what that means. I think we've got quite far now, especially the work that we did over the last 12 months with the Sensing the Unseen Gossart experience has given us that inkling about how we can start to roll these things out. That one was very much based around the sound experience. And already we're starting to talk to our curators about kind of how we called it the sonified painting and the development of it. How can we take that sonified painting through to other works? And I think that's a huge opportunity. In the Veronese piece, obviously that was the Kickstarter. We're working with Focal Point. Can we take this and can it be done again? I guess going down the VR route, it's expensive. So what's the way of doing it in a less expensive way? And just to say, I mean, people probably know we're working with Story Futures again. We're kickstarting our next lab over the next 2 weeks. And that's very exciting because we're trying to focus on a range of works across the collection, and that will give us that now stepping into that idea of how do we do these things that are finding threads throughout the permanent collection as opposed to just focusing on one work. Fabulous.
Okay. So Martina is asking, do you have a preference for AR and VR? Which perhaps you've kind of answered there with the expense of VR, but or a take on which is likely to be more useful for these types of experiences in the long term?
I mean, VR is still really powerful, and I think the museum, museums have got that kind of job to do where they can, they can showcase. Lots of museums and galleries do it around the world, and it does still have that wow factor, and it's the prevalence of headsets in the home isn't that huge. So we noticed that with the surveys, and the prototype was 1.5 years ago now, but it's still relatively the same argument in that there's opportunities there. But I think it's the speed of production that needs to be looked at, and technology's moved on. So where can we get to with that? And it's obviously a lot easier to provide a system that is about someone's own technology rather than kind of providing distributed technology.
And there is a lot.
So I think it's depending on. It definitely depends on the story. Definitely depends on the story you're trying to tell and thinking about the audience always.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So it's where AR might work well for one particular story, whereas VR, you need that full immersion to tell the story in a way that does justice to that work. Yeah, so and then we have another question. So did you get a sense of whether the visitors would repeat their usage on future visits?
Damn it, can't remember the date on that. We did ask that question. I think it was... In fact, it was definitely a question we did ask, and it was a very positive. I mean, the satisfaction rate was high, and I'm pretty sure we asked the question about repeat usage, and yes, it was a yes.
So Emma's asking, given that you've continued the investment in the project, is that a reflection of the acceptance from your audience?
I think it's an acceptance from the gallery that there's an opportunity here. The willingness to put more investment behind it. I think that I think working in the way that we did, is that idea of what a prototype is was a really interesting discussion. And obviously for us, prototyping and going through kind of iterative process can mean different things along the journey of a project. But that particular project, we had to get to a quite high fidelity prototype because we knew it was going to be on the gallery floor. And at that time, to make sure everyone felt comfortable, we took it to a quite high level, but still we knew we could go a little bit further. And I suppose it's that understanding from the audience that came to see it and to use it. We got some great feedback, but also internally as a sort of stakeholder management thing, we showcased it at various events for lots of people, whether that's execs, directors, or patrons, and the feedback we got there was very, very positive. So I think it was that level of yes, we should definitely go in this direction was part of the process as well.
And an excellent question here from David, and I think it'll probably have to be the final question because I'm just conscious of the fact that we're a bit over time. So David would like to ask, how will the media be preserved for the future, from 10 years or 100 years from now?
Very good question.
Good question.
That's what we do, I suppose. I guess we're approaching our 200th anniversary in 2024. So I think as part of all that thinking, we're in the process of there's various projects that we're working on at the moment, which are how our data is stored, how kind of how we're preserving various things. And I think this goes into the mix. This is a born digital experience. So we have that question to answer. A number of other institutions have got those answers. Yes, it's a good question, and I think we're at the beginning of our journey with that. Really, we're addressing that issue now in terms of what it means to store this, this very rich experience alongside all the other data and knowledge that we have. Our collection isn't huge; it's 2,300 paintings, but it's very deep and it's very specific. It's very deep knowledge, and so this this type of experience becomes part of that, and we have to find ways, and there's projects on the go to try and do that, to preserve things.
Lawrence, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing more from the National Gallery, no doubt about it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So just to finish off, just thank you very much to Emma, Bruno, Simon, Davy, Christine and Lawrence for their time. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and have enjoyed the UK House sessions. Thank you very much. Take care. Hi everyone, and welcome to the final Meet the Makers session for today and for the week. This session is focusing on immersive technology in visitor experience and experimental art, and we have a wonderful panel to finish things off for you for the week. We'll be hearing from Emma Cooper of Cooperative Innovations, artist Bruno Martelli, artists and directors Davy and Christine McGuire, and Lawrence Chiles, Head of Digital Services at the National Gallery. Each maker will present their work, and what I'm going to ask you to do as they present their work, please do ask your questions, put them in the chat, and I will ask those questions on your behalf. So without further ado, you certainly don't hear from me, so without further ado, first up, we have Emma Cooper of Cooperative Innovations, who's going to talk about her project, Curatours. Hi, hello, Emma.
Hi. Right, I wasn't nervous, now I really am. Okay, I am going to share my screen and stop the video. Hopefully this all works. Okay. So, hello, I'm Emma Cooper and I am project lead for Curators at Cooperative Innovations. So, I can't even get to the next slide. Here we go. So, we are a multidisciplinary team with lots of experience in gaming, storytelling and e-learning. We're really driven by a crazy nerdy excitement and passion for cooperative social experiences. Last year, during the pandemic, we launched a game called Space Team VR, a multiplayer cooperative shouting game. And I'm here today to talk to you about our new platform, Curatours. This time last year, when the pandemic hit and all the world changed, some of us had to suddenly start working from home, and more of us ended up homeschooling. And those of us who were doing both work and homeschooling suddenly realised just how much we missed of the input that we get from museums and galleries. I suddenly realised very quickly how much I've used museums and galleries as both a form of entertainment and brilliant sources of free information. When Innovate UK put out the call for business-led creative solutions to help sectors affected by the lockdown, we were thinking a lot about museums and how much they mean to us, and we were also thinking a lot about our skill set and our experience. So we came up with an idea, we pitched it, and we were super grateful to receive funding from UKRI to research and develop an MVP. Oh no, that didn't work. Where did the video go? It's all gone in the wrong order. There, right. Technical glitch, that's sorted. So with all this in mind, plus our mission of bringing people together with immersive technology, thinking about the projects that we've worked on over the past 4 years, we spent the last 12 months researching and developing Curatours.
Welcome to Curators. Curators is a place filled with cultural virtual guided tours of lots of different places, museums and galleries. Visitors can read extra text about exhibits, see 2D images, and also do a map tour and see where the other visitors are. Tours can be self-guided, pre-recorded, or live-guided. Explore with friends and family, even when apart, as you visit Curators using a smartphone, desktop, or a VR headset. For a live-guided tour, you book a time and join the group. Share a link with friends so you're on the same tour. Want to know why the arms always seem to fall off of statues? Ask the guide. Tour guides can see where everyone is during the tour and can either teleport to be with a specific visitor or bring all visitors to be where they are. It's much like going to a physical museum. There are just a few differences. There are no stairs or parking charges, and you won't get kicked out for picking up the exhibits. Curators is a platform developed by Cooperative Innovation. We're keen to talk to partners from the museum sector and their digital suppliers. Find out more at Curators.
Brilliant. So we started on our research and we started to look at the challenges facing museums and galleries. So despite there being a global pandemic, what else are they contending with? And there are quite a few challenges. They kind of come into three core themes. Environmental responsibility. It's not just about the environmental impacts of an organisation, but also the environmental cost of travel to and from that organisation. When it comes to ambition and quality, museums and galleries are fighting against all the world's media and catching and holding people's attention, delivering on delight and exceeding expectations is hard. They've got to be keeping up with the likes of Disney. With inclusivity and relevance, which has been more and more heightened this last year, addressing both accessibility and barriers to entry, whether they are physical barriers or other kinds of barriers. Creators works on VR headsets, on desktops and also on smartphones. It's intended to be a social platform so that people can be together with a tour guide and understand and learn from the content put forward. In VR, it's an incredibly immersive experience, and on other devices, it's a little bit like a cross between a Zoom call and playing a game. In fact, it's built using a game engine. We make everything with Unreal Engine from Epic. Doing this delivers on a number of benefits across all the challenges facing museums and galleries. So once we get past this lockdown stage, which we will do, I'm certain, we will also be helping to develop new revenue streams, bring in different kinds of audiences, and open up a whole new world of interpretation. We currently have two partners taking existing data and using it to bring their stories to life. The first partner is the National Trust for Scotland. They have lots of properties all over Scotland, but we're starting with Hill House. It's a stunning example of Charles Rennie Mackintosh's architectural and homeware design. It's been wrapped due to water ingress, and as a result of this conservation project, Historic Environment Scotland has been taking a large quantity of 3D data of the whole building that we hope to use to offer visitors an alternative view of the building. We're also really excited to say that our second partner is Anne Frank House. They already have a VR tour, and as part of our research, we identified it as a best-in-class example, something that we really wanted to include on the platform. We're working with the developers Forcefield to transplant the assets they have created onto our platform, giving their work a new lease of life. People will be able to view it on their mobile phones and also on their desktops and view it together with an expert from the gallery, from the museum, to really underpin the story of this building that physically doesn't exist anymore, but it's so tied to the story of Anne Frank. We're working towards a public beta, and we would like to find lots more partners and content to fill our platform with. After putting out a press call at the end of last year, we received large amounts of global interest, and we're talking to museums all over the world, but we don't rest on our laurels. If you're interested, please get in touch. Our intention is for this to grow and possibly become the metaverse for the museum and heritage sector. Here are all my details and also the details of Simon, who's our CEO. Thank you for your time. I think, I have finished, but I have no idea if anybody's still there, if I'm broadcasting or what. I can't see questions.
Hi.
At work.
That was wonderful, Emma. Thank you so much. And
Brilliant.
so professional in keeping it all together as well. Just one thing. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. And so insightful. We do have a question. I'm just going to scroll here from Samantha Kingston. So Samantha says, I love that it can be used on multi-platforms, which is wonderful. How has the response been from museums and galleries so far?
It's been really brilliant. Lots and lots of galleries and museums are really excited by the possibilities. They are a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, so they're dealing with multiple challenges, getting ready for the potential reopening in May. Is it April, May? A lot of them, their staff are on furlough. So we've had a few challenges communicating with museums. But actually, the ones that we've spoken to are the ones that tend to have had digital content already embedded in their programming. So they've already got stuff to share and to add onto the platform. So it's been a really we keep having meetings where we come out going, yeah, we made something that people want. Good, because you get so far in the research and development process, and you're like, is this just us? Do we think this is brilliant, or like, does the audience agree? And the audience does seem to agree.
So, I mean, dare I ask, is the pandemic a sort of a silver lining for you? You know, has it, because we keep reading that actually, despite all the horrendous things related to the pandemic, it's pushing innovation, it's accelerating innovation. Are you finding that with museums and galleries?
Absolutely. It's forced us to recognise that the digital technology that we already have, that is embedded, all of this stuff can be used to bring us all together. I live and work from Sheffield, and I haven't been to London once in 18 months. And that is relatively unheard of. And I think that being forced to use the technology that already exists has started to trigger people's understanding, and they're starting to get really excited by the possibilities. So one of the brilliant things about immersive is we don't have to deal with physics. So a lot of museums, huge quantities of their collections are not on display because they physically can't fit them in.
Yeah.
We won't have that problem. We don't have the problem of stairs and lifts. We don't have the same kinds of problems that you do in physical spaces.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So Harry's asking, he's commenting first of all, saying, looking amazing, Emma. Do you see potential for smaller galleries or even individual artists who are looking for new ways to exhibit? That's a good question.
Yeah, we really want to get to a point where this is a platform that self-sustains. So with the introduction of new technologies such as LiDAR and iPhones, we're going to get to a point where content makers like ourselves not become redundant, will become embedded within each sector and start making content ourselves. So if artists are wanting to make their own content and to share their stories about their content, that's going to create a new source of revenue and also a new source of audience for those people. So we our intention, like as the time goes on, at the moment we're making the content. Soon we're going to be working with other content makers to transplant their work onto our work. In the future, we hope that museums and galleries' own digital teams will be making stuff that can go directly onto the platform, and then eventually the public could be making their own tours and facilitating a bigger conversation about our cultural heritage and all the things that we've done.
So that's really, essentially this is very solid revenue opportunity for the company. Yeah.
One of the things we wanted to do, it's about generating revenue for the organisations. So we are, as much as possible, because we've been funded by UKRI and we're going out to look for private funding in the future, we're front loading the cost. We built a platform, and then hopefully museums and galleries will already have an amount of digital content that they've created, such as Lawrence's work that he's going to talk about later. So you would then transplant it onto the platform and charge or not charge a ticket fee. And then us as a business, we're going to take a small license fee, a small percentage per ticket, and we're going to experiment with how much we can charge and create revenue for content that previously might not have made any revenue.
I mean, if I could ask just there's another question coming through, which is a very good question. I'll ask you in just a second, but just to talk about business plans, quite often we hear the business plans, particularly in innovation, creative innovation, they're quite difficult to map out. I mean, how difficult was it for you to come up with what sounds like a very now solid revenue plan, a very solid business plan? Did you have support in that process?
We worked with, well, we kind of worked between me and Simon. That's what we spent the last 18 months doing, is thinking about what's the best approach. We've both done a lot of work in this sector as individual, digital providers of content to museums. And we understand that the sector isn't necessarily cash rich.
Yeah.
So we knew that we couldn't, this isn't a model where we're going to be able to charge huge amounts of money to organisations. And we also understand through a lot of the research I did last year that people do like to pay. They don't mind. In the region of about £15 to pay for really good content. And our hope is that by distributing it and finding a large enough audience that we can start to generate a really good revenue.
Great.
But we're going to test that theory. So that's why we want to do a public beta.
Wonderful. Emma, thank you very much. So just one last question from Susan, off topic, but she'd like to know where you got your shirt from, because it's great.
Oh, thanks. It's from Monkey. It's a dress. It doesn't have pockets. But I'm in my house, so I don't need pockets. Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for your time, and very best of luck with Curatours as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
So next up, we have artist Bruno Martelli. Bruno, would you like to join us? There you are, Bruno. You have the stage. Thank you very much.
This party started right now. Quickly,
So thanks, UK House. When I was invited to speak, I actually had my talk prepared about UK acid house raves from 1988 to 1990, but then I realized that was actually the wrong thing. So instead, I am going to talk about something which is related to dance, which is called Emotion River. My name's Bruno Martelli. I'm a visual artist, and I work with simulation, performance capture, installation, and video as part of the collective Gibson Martelli, and I work making immersive virtual realities. So I'm also here with Simon Barrett, who, like Emma, is from Cooperative Innovations, and you can see a picture of them. Sorry, not a picture of them, a picture of Space Team VR. And for us, they have been building the Motion River tools, and Simon is going to be answering tech questions later. And this is his Space Team VR. And also, I'm not joined by my colleagues Alex Council and Pippa Bostock from the University of Portsmouth. And these guys have got a really strong mocap and VR focus in the new Centre for Creative and Immersive Extended Reality, the CCIXR, and they've been really busy with the RSC Dream project. And last but not least, I should say that I'm part of Theat, which is a collaboration between Gibson, Martelli and future fashion collective Pout Porte. And our focus, excuse me, has been on our immersive performance experience, Dazzle, which is modelled after the Chelsea Arts Club Dazzle Ball of 1919. And so one of the research objectives in our project is how we can create a sort of new space for performance, which is outside of the theatre space and also reach remote audiences. And there's been a sort of sustainability question about the high cost, both financial and environmental, of touring performance work. And we were lucky to, because the UKRI's Rapid COVID-19 Response Grant has given us the chance to develop Motion River, which came about as we needed to enhance or change our gallery exhibition into a more online experience. I'm just going to show a little clip of another video over here. So, I mean, I guess this is the what. I'm just going to turn the sound down on this. So we use motion capture, and this is widely used in visual effects, games, biomechanics, and with optical systems, retroreflective dots are placed near the joints, and they picked up by infrared cameras. And the system combines the dots into points in space, which drives a skeleton to animate character models in games, amongst other things. And so the big players in the kind of mocap space are OptiTrack, Vicon, and Motion Analysis. And there are other systems which use inertial measuring unit, IMUs, instead of optical. And we could talk about Xsense, Perception Neuron, Rococo. And there are also markerless motion capture systems like the Capture. So this is the why, really. Many mocap systems stream data locally, and you can see this in this demonstration we made for Digital Catapult over a year ago now. Our performer Harry, wearing the sort of Dazzle all-in-one suit, this is his mocap suit, and our audience member Ben is wearing a backpack PC and a VR headset, and Ben also has trackers on his hands and his head and his feet. And so in this setup, both the performer and the audience member are motion captured, and the mocap data is streamed locally out over the local network to the backpack, so that Ben sees a full body avatar of himself and Harry in VR. And this is great for immersion. And the problem that we wanted to solve with Motion River is that the mocap, it normally can stream only locally. And we wanted to stream our mocap from our performer live over the internet to audience members at home, and also to stream in mocap from different places. So this is a bit of how it works. See if I can click this video. So what we have is we have three bits. There's a Motion River source application, and this is a small lightweight app which sends the OptiTrack data, in this case, to the Motion River server. Then we have a Motion River server application which streams the mocap data over the internet in our universal format. And then finally, we have a Motion River Live Link plugin for the Unreal game engine. And this allows developers to make an executable for the audience at home to use and to receive live mocap. And this very short video shows how it all hooks up. It's very straightforward. The Motion River software runs in the background, and it's got very little overhead. And the software tool is really for artists to use, and it's all about its function. There's no need for a fancy UI. And a Live Link integration is a good solution because the framework's already really in use. So this not overexciting diagram shows the example route from the mocap studio to the end user. And in this case, our end users are virtual reality users. And I'm thinking of our Dazzle project. However, the end users could easily and equally be people using a mobile app, or they could be looking at a PC just in a desktop, or it could be a theatrical audience who are looking at a projected performance on a screen. And likewise, the sources of mocap here, they are, in this diagram, they're just two motion capture studios, but equally it could be between, it could be for a film shoot or a theatre stage. And another scenario that we're just starting to think about experimenting with is a kind of two-way exchange where we have two studios both sending and receiving motion capture data, which is effectively a motion capture duet. So what we particularly want to use Motion River for is our expanded performance version of Dazzle as we move it from a gallery installation into a home-based experiences. And what we're sort of imagining now that audiences maybe book at each venue, they download the software, and then they can log in at specific times for the performances. Yeah, and so this is like a video clip of a kind of screen recording of what the people see in VR. But we're also imagining there are other potential users for the software that aren't us. So I'm just going to jump back to my slide. So we're imagining that Motion River could be used for virtual training and simulation. It could be used in sports science, and sort of that whole biomechanics world, rehabilitation, of course, medical uses, architectural visualization. And our primary focus has been to develop an open source tool to share with a community of artists and production companies and technologists who are working with this kind of mocap, kind of immersive broadcast idea. And we're testing with some early stage partners. And this morning, we were sending some mocap data to people in China. And in the future, we hope others will be able to come along and create compatible plugins for, say, the Unity engine or other mocap sources so that it works with other mocap systems. And we're aware that there are a number of other groups who are starting to use mocap streaming. However, some of these people, the tools they're using are basically closed source. And for us, this slide looks backwards to me. I hope it's the right way around for you. But for us, this tool gives us new capabilities. We're embarking on our virtual tour of venues, initially in the UK, and we're thinking about how to incorporate an online multiplayer experience with live streaming performance using Motion River. And this kind of streaming live performance into a game engine environment really gives the audience an enhanced experience in this new space for performance. And maybe it's a new type of cultural experience. I mean, it's very early days. So moving forward, we've got the Vicon version coming in a couple of weeks, and we are thinking about how we can do things like recording and playback in the cloud, so we can provide motion capture on demand, and also retargeting. This is something that often you want to do, where the motion capture comes across from different physical hierarchies. So, for example, human performers' walks get converted into dinosaur walks. And I guess all of this has not been possible without the UKRI funding. So thank you very much, UKRI. And I guess if there are questions, then we could just go over and make Simon answer them.
Hi, so thank you so much, Bruno. And I can see that Simon is now joining the conversation as well. Hi, Simon. So really, first thing, just to echo Megan's comment, that is so cool, right? We kind of knew it was going to be cool from the beginning. That was a great opening. And there's a lot of love for the suits as well, by the way. Very cool suits.
Thank you.
Start off, I wanted to ask, what was the inspiration for you, Bruno, as an artist, to work with motion capture?
It's a multiple of reasons. I collaborate with Ruth Gibson. She's a choreographer, and obviously, in the dance world, we started out a long time ago working in the theatre and doing performances and trying to make interactive performances using technology on stage. And then we thought about how can we go a bit further and make an immersive experience for the audience. And we started off with projections, and then eventually we thought, let's use game engines. And once you start using game engines, then you think about wanting to have virtual characters. And once you've got virtual characters, you need to animate them using motion capture, which fits together with performers. And then basically it's a hop, skip, and a jump. And then you're basically working in let's say, VR.
There seems to be like so many avenues that this could take that you've mentioned there in your chat. I mean, Andrew Chitty is very keen on a Dazzle Space Team VR mashup. He thinks that would be amazing. There's a chat about, how you could use it within festivals, for example. So I think Kate here is saying she would legit wear that costume in a festival. And I'm just thinking, I don't know why, but I'm just thinking silent discos. You could have a motion capture silent disco. That would be really cool. So I suppose the question though is, where are you now, and where would you like to go next, and when and how could we start perhaps experiencing Dazzle?
Okay, where we are now, we've just started looking at the live streaming motion capture with Motion River. Simon, he's making the Vicon version, and this is nice because then it means we can integrate with our buddies at University of Portsmouth, because their motion capture system is a Vicon one, and this gives us a nice opportunity to actually think about like a tag team long durational performance, maybe where one we link together a bunch of motion capture studios which are in different time zones, and we get quite a lot of coverage, and each performer basically like a wrestler, they jump into the ring and then they inhabit the character. So that's we're just at the basically like building it and testing it stage right now. The thing about the costumes is that our collaborators, Cooperative, they've done a huge amount of work with this thing that they've set up called the Dazzle Collective, and they've been making they've had an open call co-design brief where they've been working with a number of fashion students and colleges and universities around the world to create a number of zero waste costumes for the audience to wear, and all of these patterns are being put online and they're all being open source so that you can download them and make them at home. So if your friend wants to get one of those costumes, you can actually make your own. You can go and download a pattern, I think, right now.
That's my weekend plan sorted out, is that's perfect. I think on the other use cases sort of side of things, and we've seen VR chat, for instance, make good use of Vive trackers, and people using those for full body capture. So we're sort of seeing, I guess, sort of pro users sort of buy these different tracking systems, and some people even have the mocap suits themselves at home as well. And I think the stuff we're doing with Motion River will certainly enable more applications to sort of allow that kind of behavior and use case, as we are doing more, tracking more points than just the hands and the head, for instance, from a VR setup, able to use some more sort of mocap style systems. So it may not be long before we're all doing virtual silent disco or whatever it is.
So just to finish off, perhaps, just a last question for you both, is that that you often hear about the creatives and the technology working together. So what is the collaboration between the two of you, and in terms of a user experience and from an artist? So one is very human-centered design and the other one perhaps comes more from the heart as an artist. How has that collaboration been, and what works well for the two of you in making sure that the collaboration works?
Well, they have to do the hard bit, and we sort of do most of the fun bit. It's a kind of so.
I think we're lucky from the games point of view, right? Because ultimately, games industry is kind of our background, and games is that mix of creative and digital anyway. It always has been a combination of those skills. So I think we're just well placed in terms of the disciplines and realizing that there has to be an end user for what we're doing. And obviously that showed a bit of Curators as well, in the fact that there has to be a use case for why you're developing this technology. You can't develop technology just for its own sake. And I said that as a programmer originally, and everything I'm doing now is because we see where the use is going to be in the future, and some exciting things become of it because there's even greater creatives and other people working with it and using it.
Yeah, I think people just want to get. You just want to. You see these game worlds and these immersive worlds, and and in VR you sort of go in, but you sort of want to go in more. And I think there's a kind of rush into this endlessly receding frontier of the virtual space.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for your time. I'm just seeing the clock ticking away. We could spend so much longer talking about this, but thank you very much for your time. And now I'd like to welcome artists and directors Davy and Christine McGuire to the stage to present their production on Dracula. Thank you.
I don't think I'll ever forget my first day at Factory 42. News of a possible national lockdown because of COVID had just broken.
We had actually launched a new experience in the Metro Centre in Gateshead.
Had moved into full production and ready for a performance in June 2020.
We had created and established an amazing story with Aardman. All our technology was in place.
2020 seemed to hold so much promise, yet all across the creative sector, the impacts of the pandemic were felt. And this is a story of some of the projects that were supported by the audience of the Futures Challenge and the Creative Industries Clusters program, and how even the best laid plans were disrupted.